This is something you've been studying for, I guess, decades now, which is just mastering confidence, body language, overcoming these challenges. What's been the biggest challenge for you in the last 10 years that you've had to overcome, knowing the research and practicing these things and talking about these things yourself? What's been the challenge for you, whether career or personal or?
I think the challenge for me has been adjusting to, being more well-known than the average academic, right?
Right.
And actually, leaving academia, I still teach, but I'm not
Full-time.
No, I teach in executive education at Harvard, but I'm not a professor. I'm a lecturer when I lecture. That leaving was hard.
Really?
So, it was a big leap to leave that security. But it just was not the right world for me. But I think the biggest challenge really has been dealing with becoming higher profile and the kind of backlash that I endured as a result of that.
Criticism.
Which is not, yes. And well, yeah, criticism's fine, but bullying is not,
Right.
And I know that this is common. Like this happens in fact, it happens to a lot of junior professors who give TED Talks.
Really?
Yeah. It's funny, somebody just wrote to me yesterday. She has a popular TED Talk, and she said that at her university, people started calling her TED Girl and like sort of talking down to her.
Even though it was a popular, well-respected TED Talk.
Because it was popular, right? Like it's like if it had not really hit the radar, it would have been okay.
Really, but because she had some success.
Yeah, so people had to sort of diminish her in a way, and I experienced a lot of the same stuff. So what became hard for me was talking to colleagues, right? Like standing up for myself. And the truth is we need to stand up for each other, right? When people are in an acute bullying situation, they really can't stand up for themselves. But I'm still figuring out how to engage with other people in academia who weren't necessarily bullies, but might have been bystanders who didn't do anything. But to be able to say, I still deserve to be having this conversation. I deserve to have the beliefs that I have. I deserve to defend, this massive area of research on body-mind feedback, of which I contribute a tiny bit to.
Right.
Just because these people don't like it doesn't mean I can't, say, well, here's why I do believe it. That's really hard for me.
Yeah.
That is the thing that I would approach with the most dread, I think.
Were you able to implement and integrate some of your own practices and teachings when those things happened to you? When you were getting, whether it be criticism or bullying or, any of the stuff you were facing, were you able to actually integrate the body language for yourself?
For me, the thing that works the best is, certainly I do. Like I walk expansively, like
yes.
I like long strides before this kind of stressful thing. I won't sit down with my hands in my lap.
Right.
Like even putting your hands behind your chair, like this is a bit
kind of opens you up a little bit.
But it forces you to open up just doing that. But the thing that works the best for me is breathing. And I know there is so much on breath work now, and I don't want to, I'm not an expert, but the relaxation response that's triggered by certain breathing patterns is incredibly effective for me. And so basically it sends your nervous system into this rest and digest state, which is the opposite of fight, flee, or faint. And so the one that I like best is called 4-7-8 breathing. And we can do it right now.
Yes, do it.
So so basically for 4 counts you inhale, for 7 you hold your breath, and for 8 you exhale.
Okay.
So I'm going to count and you do it.
Okay. 4 inhale.
7 hold it,
And
8 exhale.
Okay,
All
cool.
right. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
And you repeat that a few times?
3 times. Like one time you feel it.
Yeah.
It will put me to sleep at night.
Yeah.
If I'm relaxed, it makes me sleepy. But if I'm anxious, it calms me down. So that just, there's just so much research on the relaxation response and breathing.
Right.
But what I think is interesting about it is that that kind of breathing is expansive. Just like what I talk about, like expansive posture, that's expansive. You're breathing deeply and slowly. You're taking up more temporal space. You're expanding your, like your physical body more. And when we expand, we tend to feel more confident, more powerful, more calm.
Should we always, not always, should we frequently be in an expansive postural state when we're kind of 9 to 5-ish out in the world doing our activities?
What we should be in is having good neutral posture. So it's before stressful events, that's when I say find a private space. I think I said in the TED Talk, find a bathroom stall,
right?
Which I honestly think just like I thought of at the moment, but I can't tell you how many emails I get from people who are like, I was in a bathroom, or like people who see somebody in a bathroom with their arms up in the air, like, are you power posing in it?
I think in Ted Lasso was saying she goes to the bathroom and does that, right?
I know, I loved it so
That's so
much.
good.
You can't imagine, like I love that show, and I had no idea
you had no idea it was coming.
I was like sobbing. I was like, oh my God.
What's so cool that you, Brene Brown, and Esther Perel, who I've had both of them on as well, were all featured in there. And I'm just like, that's amazing.
I know. And I think all of us were absolutely beyond thrilled, right? I mean, to have that. And I know I was telling Brene this, but the first time I saw that show, I at the end of the first episode, I turned to my husband and I said, I love Ted Lasso. And he goes, good. That's because you are Ted Lasso.
Exactly.
And I was like, well, I guess I had good self-esteem then. But I am Ted Lasso, and so are you.
Yes, exactly.
Right? You
are.
It's funny because Brene says that she's Roy Kent.
Yeah, I can see.
She's more Roy Kent.
You can see a little bit.
But anyway, so before these stressful situations, the ones that you approach with dread, that's when you find some space and really make yourself big.
Expansive.
Like whatever feels comfortable to you, expand. In front of other people, it comes across as really aggressive and domineering and off-putting. But if you're in, the privacy of your own bathroom stall or office or whatever, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to worry about cultural norms or putting people off. In our everyday lives, we spend so much time like this, like with our phones. And that is really bad. First, it's bad for us, just our posture, and it's creating this sort of fixed thoracic stoop that physiotherapists used to only see in like elderly people, and now they're seeing it in like 15-year-old boys from gaming and things like that. And that's something like you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to sit up straight. You have to like work that out
for years, working it out, and align your body. Yeah.
Totally, but so it's not only hurting our posture, but I believe that it is affecting our mood. And so, even just set up your workspace so that you can be more expansive.
Yes.
But we neglect our body language when we're alone because it's language. And if we're alone, we're not talking to anyone.
We're talking to ourselves,
but we're talking to ourselves, right? So it's really important, I think, for us to be minding our posture. Also, there have been a couple of meta-analyses recently, which basically are just, studies that look at all of the studies on a topic and come up with a sort of an average effect size. Like they say, yes, this is a real effect, and this is how big the effect is, right? So studies that have looked at meta-analyses of power posing studies show really clearly that it affects the way we feel. Like expansive,
by shrinking our body.
Shrinking versus expanding
affects the way, whether in a positive or
more expansive, more confident, and more powerful psychologically. Shrinking, less powerful, less confident. But what's interesting is that there are two meta-analyses. One of them shows that more of the effect is driven by the difference between neutral and expansive. The other one shows that more of the effect is driven by the difference between, contractive and neutral. So we still, in short, there's evidence that both of those things matter, but certainly neutral is better than contractive.
Shrinking,
exactly.
And it's probably, even if you were doing a meditative breathing technique, if you're closing your body off and breathing, you're still probably limiting yourself.
Yep.
So you can be breathing and trying to relax the nervous system, but you're closing your body off, it's hard to feel like more alive and confident and calm, I'm assuming,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah.
It's funny, this woman wrote to me, she said, I teach people public speaking, and I had this student who was really stressed out, this man, and so I got him to power pose for a minute, and he said it made him feel worse.
Really?
And she said, but then we watched the video. She said I videotaped him, and we watched the video, and I was like, "Were you breathing?" He said, "No, I didn't breathe. I held my breath the whole time."
Oh my gosh!
He's like, "Well, that's all not going to work."
Yeah,
so
you're gonna
now
pass
try
out.
it.
You're gonna faint.
Exactly. So he had been like completely still in this power pose, and she was laughing about it, but yeah, you have to breathe.
How long should we be in an expansive postural states for?
It's funny. I really emphasized 2 minutes in the TED Talk because that's what we had done in those first studies. I think actually less is more. Like
Really?
we've gone out to 5 minutes. I think that it just gets awkward. It's that silly. Like you feel weird, but also like your body gets sort of stiff. So I just think I don't even think you have to be still. I think you can be moving in an expansive way.
Yeah.
I think it's the whole. I sometimes wish that I hadn't called this power posing because it was it's such a sticky idea, right?
Yes.
It's got alliteration. It's
Great branding.
Exactly,
Great branding.
exactly. But at the same time, people got fixed on like standing like Wonder Woman or in the victory pose, and it's not. It's being expansive is more expansive than this.
Yes.
It's in whatever way works for you.
Yeah, the tighter you are, the probably less likely you'll perform relaxed.
Right.
And football training before games and in practices, they would always tell us to be loose.
Yeah.
To move our body to be flexible, to be expansive, but in a loose state of mind and a loose body, not like rigid or you can't catch the ball if you're like too tight. So it's how can you be expansive, confident, and relaxed at the same time?
Yeah.
And practicing that in life with the power poses, I think is great.
Yeah.
And Ted Lasso, she did it great. She was like, right? She was like a
gosh.
monster pose or something. It was
I think
awesome.
she was like.
It's amazing.
She
Yeah.
made this facial expression that I thought was great.
She's a great actor as well.
She's so. I wonder if that was like so. If they were like just do a power pose
Off the
and
cuff,
she made it up.
She probably did.
I just feel like
She was great. She was
so
great.
good.
When was there ever a time where you didn't implement this strategy and you realized, oh, I could have done better had I done this, but I just thought I had it figured out.
Only it's fun. So I really love public speaking, and it's like my favorite professional thing to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me nervous.
That's good.
So for me, I think a lot of people assume that speaking is the thing that makes everyone nervous. So for me, it's not that.
What makes you nervous?
Interpersonal conflict, like one-on-one, or I get nervous in like smaller groups. I don't.
Isn't that interesting? Like 5 or 10 people. I
like
feel the same
talking
way.
to 3 people, I find much more stressful than talking to 3,000 people. So I don't like to sit in a room for a long time before I'm going to get up and talk to people. I don't want to sit there in a cold room. These rooms are often cold, and you're going like this, and you're totally sort of stiff, and then you get up and you're like, ooh. So I had that experience enough times to learn I need to be moving around. I need to be warm, not cold, and come in sort of right before I get up to present or to discuss. So yes, I've had the experience of being still and kind of hunched up for too long.
So we've got the affirmations we talked about, self-affirmation, affirming who you are, not just making up lies about yourself.
Right.
We've got, what's the actual technical term now? Not power posing, it's
I call
postural,
it postural feedback.
Postural feedback.
Right, and I think the idea is just keep in mind your posture is sent, there is feedback to your nervous system telling you either I'm safe or I'm not safe. It's kind of that simple. You're safe or you're not safe.
It's interesting. I learned a technique 11, 12 years ago, about 2009, when I got into the business world and I started going to events and conferences and networking events. I remember feeling like I'm a nobody. I'm this young kid who was just playing football. I still didn't have a college degree. I was 24. And going into a room with all these professionals and executives. I was like, why would anyone talk to me? Kind of had this feeling early on.
Right.
And I learned from someone, he said, every time you walk into a door, just act like you're trying to connect the top of your head to the door. And just walk in and stand, like every time you see a door at any time in your life, just practice you're walking, you're entering a room just with you don't have to put your chest all the way out like crazy, but
exactly.
Shoulders back just a little bit, your head just a little bit taller, like you're trying to touch the top.
Absolutely.
And he said, walk in with a smile.
Yeah.
And every time I do that, I practice it just all the time now. It's like, it just makes you feel a little bit better, more courageous to actually say hi to someone. A smile, a little taller, your shoulders back just a little bit.
Yeah.
It really helps with that. So it's something that I learned early on that helped me kind of just gain courage.
Well, it's, in ballet, it's, it's very much like imagining
it's like
that
a string, right?
Going through. But another technique that I think works really well for me that I learned in ballet is you're looking at the people in the balcony, and that opens you up, right? And it also makes you more aware of this interaction. And there's also kind of magic and chemistry in the interaction, right? You're not alone, and that's a whole other. Well, not a whole other thing, but it's that ability to be present with people is like it feeds on itself, right? Like you become. The energy level picks up more and more the more you can build that intimacy with an audience. And so by opening up to them, you're much more likely to create that intimacy.
Yeah.
The funny thing about Sit Up Straight is that, a lot of us heard it as kids from grandparents.
We resented it, right? It's like,
but also I think part of it was because we were told to do it to show respect to others. And the thing is, it's actually more about showing respect to yourself. Like, be you like that one?
Yeah, it's good.
Yes. Sit up straight to respect yourself.
Yes.
And if you respect yourself, you're more likely to be able to respect others.